Hey friends, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a photographer and educator on a mission to help you find your passion, power, and purpose through entrepreneurship. So let's jump right into today's episode because this girl means business. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. Thank you so much for being here as we dive headfirst into the month of June. Now, in case you can't tell, my voice is not up to par this week. I have had a pretty rough week between a horrible sinus infection and then losing my voice, which I'm just starting to get back. Not ideal for someone who does podcasting, but it's slowly getting better, and I'm ready to kick off the summer with an amazing episode today for y'all. I want you to think today about how many Facebook groups you're a part of. I went the other day through my list of Facebook groups and was counting up how many groups I'm a part of, and it's way higher than I really realized. But I also started looking at each of those groups that I'm part of and the reason that I'm still in them, the value that I'm getting from them, the community, the support, whatever it might be. Those Facebook communities have been essential in helping me with something either in my business or in my personal life. And that is the power of Facebook groups and communities. It's the reason Facebook is pushing their groups so much right now because they realize that there is magic in those groups. And so our guest today, Michelle Vroom, is going to be sharing some tips with us on how we can utilize Facebook groups to build a community around our business and brand. Now, Michelle is a marketing coach with more than 15 years of experience with nonprofits, agencies, and big corporations. But now she helps small business owners market themselves. She understands the challenges of limited resources and time and shares her methods for visibility and relationship building to get clients and grow your business. I am so excited for you to listen to our conversation today. She's giving some really valuable tips that not only apply to Facebook groups, but just building a community within your brand overall. So let's go ahead and jump right into our conversation with Michelle Vroom. All right, Michelle, welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. We're so excited to have you here today. First of all, I love your last name, Michelle Vroom. Like, that's the coolest name ever.
Thank you, Kendra.
But I'm so excited to talk to you today about communities and Facebook groups and using that platform to help grow your community. But before we do all that, I want you to kind of introduce yourself to all of our listeners. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your journey to get to where you are today.
Sure thing. I can't take credit for the last name. It is my husband's, and I couldn't not take it, right? After we got married.
It's so cool.
So, I'm a marketing coach who helps, other female online experts get to six figures in their business. And the primary way that I do this is by helping them grow a community. Referrals are great. Nothing against referrals. I have some incredible referral partners. But if that's your entire marketing strategy, you are leaving clients and money on the table. So I teach my clients how to grow a community, but not just a community that converts, a community that brings them clients whenever they want, because in my opinion, that is true freedom in your business. And I want that for every single woman. I believe every single woman deserves that. So I'm excited to be here today to talk about this topic. I could talk about it all day long.
I love it. Well, I was telling you right before, we kind of hit record that I was just kind of, sometimes something, but when it's presented to you in a certain way, it's like that light bulb moment. And it was presented to me in a workshop I was doing about the difference between like audience and community and the fact that, if you're building an audience, then you're basically building a group of people that you're going to like speak to, not necessarily go on a journey with.
Yes.
If you're building a community, you're building a group of people that are going to want to come with you. They're going to support you. They're going to encourage you. They're going to be part of your tribe. And the community is so much stronger and more powerful than an audience. And so I love this idea of building a community. So I cannot wait to dive into this topic. So one thing I will say, Facebook groups are not something I am completely versed in, or I run a few here and there. I have a pretty successful photography one that just sort of runs itself. I don't have to do a whole lot to make it successful. I've tried other ones that have not been super successful. So I would love to hear a little bit about your, like, even how you got into the idea of Facebook groups, why you feel like that's I know you've said like this can be done in other platforms, but why you like Facebook so much.
Yeah. So I love your revelation about like the difference between an audience and a community, because you're absolutely right. When you have an audience, you're almost talking at people versus talking with, and really having that two-way conversation and relationship. The reason I think it's so important, and the reason that I think Facebook groups are a really great way to do this, and you're right, you can build a community on any platform, is number one, as much as we love to hate Facebook sometimes, Facebook is still Facebook, right? And so there are 1.8 billion people participating in Facebook groups. Not that they necessarily have their own group, but they're participating in some form. They are a member of a group. 1.8 billion. That's more than the total audience on any other social platform. And yes, I think including TikTok. So the point of that is you've got these people, right, who are already using groups. Why not join the conversation and be part of that journey? And yes, you can do that by going into other people's groups. But here's the thing. I like to use the party analogy, right? Like if you go to a friend's party and you meet a mutual friend of the person who threw the party and you connect, right? You have a great time. Are you when the party's over, are you just going to go kind of back to your respective homes and say, well, we'll see you the next time our friend decides to hold a party? No, you're going to exchange numbers. You're going to continue the conversation. You're going to continue building a relationship. And that's exactly the same concept as having your own community, right? So being part of Facebook groups is great. Meeting and connecting with people is great. But a lot of people miss this really important piece of, hey, what happens to deepen that connection? How am I going to do that, right? And that's usually a missing link for a lot of people in their marketing. If they make a great connection in a Facebook group, they try to immediately get the sale or land the client. And there are other steps that need to happen to build that relationship. And the best way to do it is to do it in your world on your terms.
I love that. I love that party analogy too. Like that makes so much sense.
Can you tell I want to throw parties right now?
I know.
obviously it's not happening.
I wish.
You know where my head is at, right?
Yeah. I use the analogy a lot of times of like the difference between like or social media and like your email list, where social media is like the cocktail party where you meet somebody, and then like your email, or in this case, even like a Facebook group is where you kind of go on that first date, you get to know them, or you have that coffee date or whatever. But yeah, the theme of wanting to throw parties is in there for sure.
Yeah. One other quick note really quick along those lines.
Yeah.
People need an average of 10 to 12 touch points before they decide to buy, right? So they need to hear or see something 10 to 12 different times. And I'm even going to overestimate on the high end, because I think just there's so much being thrown at us, right, in today's world. And so I say that just because that's the reality. And if you can incorporate those touch points into your community, you're going to warm them up so much faster versus trying to incorporate those touch points in somebody else's group or somebody else's community.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like Facebook is definitely, each social platform has their thing that they are like known for. And I think Facebook is evolving into that they are focusing really heavily on creating these little communities, these groups. They even like run like commercials on TV, advertising like there's a place for everybody. So this is what they are ultimately going to make their sort of niche. It's going to be creating groups and communities around different topics. So if that's what you are trying to do in your business, then this is clearly the place you need to be, because you can't do those kinds of things on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter. You have, like, Facebook is going to be the place to go if you want to have these spaces. Okay, so I have a couple of questions that come up in my mind. And so anybody else listening may have these same questions when it comes to Facebook groups. So honestly, I've said before, Facebook is not where I spend a lot of my time. I have one because I need to in order to run Instagram and ads, those kinds of things.
Sure.
I do run some Facebook groups. However, I think the struggle I have with Facebook groups has always been the idea of sort of this overwhelm. Like it feels really overwhelming to be the one who, quote unquote, throws the party. Sometimes for a lot of people, it's like, well, I'd rather just go and enjoy the party than be the one who has to go in and like have everything, prepared and have all the food planned and make sure everybody's having a good time and get people to the party. So what do you say to someone who's like, I want to build this community. I like the idea of this community aspect. However, the role of being like the person who is in charge of all of it feels overwhelming to me.
I hope it's okay if I use some tough love, because that's what I'm known for here.
Go for it.
If you started a business, you threw the party. whether you keep it on in Facebook group or grow an email list or on Instagram or whatever, like, you are in that leadership position. And I know that for some people, and I'll include myself in that, that's very overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
To think like, I'm in this position of people watching me, of being the person throwing the party. But what an awesome opportunity for every single business owner, because there are people out there right now who need you to be the leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need you to step up and to talk about what you do. And if they don't find you, they might find someone else who does something like who offers a similar service. But is that person going to be as talented as you? Is that person going to, be as good as you? Like, what they're getting when they invest with you. So I get that fear 100%. But at the same time, when you start a business, you did sign up for the party, whether you realized it at in the moment or not. And I know I come from a marketing background, so it's like easy for me to say, but I have a lot of clients who say, I'm not good at marketing. Like, I didn't want to be a marketer. I probably said that about sales at one point in my business, because I don't feel like I was, I didn't feel like I was good at that. The point isn't necessarily to be quote unquote good at it. It's to show up as you, because you chose to start this business for a reason, right? There's a bigger why behind it. And people can't get to know that bigger why if they don't have that access to you.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, if you are running a business, then you're already the host of the party. Like, you just need to get it, just embrace it, buy the chips and guac and get in there.
Yeah, it gets to be your party, right? Like, I actually think using Facebook groups as an example, because that's what we're talking about, I think that's a great opportunity to be able to customize your group your way, right? Yeah. Like, you get to market your way. I am a true believer in that. I believe everybody does need to create a community, but I'm not going to tell you that your community has to be like X, Y, and Z, right? You get to decide what that is. And so I actually think there's a lot of freedom in that maybe we don't fully realize.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, that's something I see, kind of getting on a little bit of a side tangent here, but the idea that you get to create your community to look the way you want it to look. Because I think so many people starting out, they look at all the other business owners out there and they think, okay, I want to be just like this person, or I want to be just like this person. And if you are trying to be a knockoff version of somebody else, then people are never going to be drawn to your community, because they're going to say, why would I buy the knockoff when I can have the real thing over here?
Totally right.
But if you really give in to the fact that, like, you are your own person, you are your own brand, you can do what you could, there are no rules. Like, you can go in, you can create a group or a community that looks like however you want it to look, and you lean into that, then you're going to be the person that people are like, I am drawn to that, and they're going to want to be there.
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, if you are trying to embody somebody else's community, you may also attract the wrong people.
Right.
People who want that person, not you. And
exactly.
When you sign those people as clients, that's when there starts to be some, it's not aligned, right? And I just think you're totally right. Being your authentic self. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And you get to decide what that looks like. And that is your responsibility as a business owner, is to decide what kind of party you want to throw. Like, you've already thrown the party. Like, let's go all the way, right? Let's go all the way. It's like a lot of people open up businesses and they throw the party, but they never invite anybody. Yeah. And then you're like, you've got a party that nobody attended. And what a shame, because you are an incredibly talented person. I'm saying this to all of your listeners. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of get down to the nitty gritty of it. So Facebook groups. So walk us through just sort of the basics of, like, starting a Facebook group and building that community. So if someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, I have a following on Instagram, I've got a little bit of a following on Facebook, but I like this idea of building a community that's, the party that I'm throwing. How do they get started?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will share my free guide, which is called Your First 100, which gives you 3 steps to growing a Facebook group. We reference groups, but you could apply these steps anywhere. To growing a Facebook group of 100 dream clients, right? So 100 of the right people. Because when you can get to your first 100, or just to 100 of the right people, you can expect that at least 1 or 2 of them will convert to clients. And at that point, you've got a repeatable system that you can reuse over and over. So that's why I talk so much about the power of 100. So I will share that with you so that your listeners have it. But just to kind of, summarize, the steps that you need to take to grow this group. I think number one, going back to what we were just saying, you need to know what kind of party you want to throw. A lot of people throw up groups and they have no clue what kind of party they want to throw, who the group is for. Like, they really don't have that strategy. You do need a strategy, right? You do need to understand what kind of party you're throwing. Like, what topics do you want to talk about at that party? I think if you can map that out beforehand, it makes the process a little bit easier because you know what direction you're moving in, right? It kind of removes some of the like cloudiness around, what should I name the group? Like, who's it for? What do I put in the about section? What content should I put up? And listen, guys, you don't need all this content to be in your group before you start inviting people. I literally started my group, and this will be the second point, with a free challenge. I call this like a destination event, right? A free challenge or a training, something that's happening only inside of your group. So people have to go there to check it out, right? I mean, listen, if you're inviting people to a party, you're not just going to put on the invitation, the date, the time, and that's it, right? You're going to talk about what's happening at that party. You want to sell the party to people. Otherwise, they're not going to want to come, right? So same thing with your group. And I think having a free challenge or a free training, or even just like a little live workshop or something happening inside of your group, number one, it's going to give people an incentive to join because they're going to be curious and they're going to want to see what's going on. And number two, it's also going to attract the right people because you're choosing a topic that your people care about. A lot of people make the mistake of marketing their group just because it's free and saying like, oh, join my free group. What's more enticing? Join my free group, or hey, check out, my free challenge. It's going to help you land your first client, and it's happening inside of my group, right? Now you've been way more specific, and specific sells, as we all know. So I think that's going to be the second piece, is just making sure that you have that destination event. You have, something that kind of brings people back, right? And then the third piece is really promoting.
Well, hang on, I want to stop for just a second, because I want to go back to the idea of the challenge, because I really like this idea. And I think this is something I've seen a lot of people do really well. One in particular is a guest I had on the podcast way back when, Ali Kazaza. She does like it's called Declutter Like a Mother. She does it at the beginning of every year. And it's like a 3-week challenge, maybe it's 2-week long challenge, but each day she goes through and helps you like a declutter a different part of your home. And people share like their before and afters, and she makes it very simple. But from that one, like 2-week challenge that she does the beginning of every year, she now has this growth in her group, and people are now like, they're part of her party. But they came in because of this one thing, but they've stayed for so much longer. So I think that that's something I want to make sure that people understand as the idea of the challenge, because I think that's a really cool way. It's kind of like with email marketing. You're not just going to say, hey, come join my email list because you should join my email list. You have to give them something of value to hook them in. And if you can say, hey, come in here and we're going to do this really cool free thing, then you're going to get people in there, because that's way cooler than just saying, hey, come hang out over here because we got, chips and queso,
1,000%. I mean, free, there's so much free stuff out there. People don't care about that anymore. You need to make the case for why they should spend their time there, because their time is valuable. And so for me, when I started my Facebook group, I started it purely out of necessity because I needed a place to house the challenge. It was called Know Your Target. It was all about finding your target audience. I'm coming up on the 3-year anniversary of my my group. So this was 3 years ago. And I wasn't even planning to keep the group open. Talk about strategy. I had none, right? I wasn't even planning to keep the group open after the challenge, but I got 100 people in. And then I'm like, well, what do I do with these 100 people? I should keep this group open and keep it going. Yeah. And that's how my group, Market Like a Boss, was born. And now I've got, 200 people in there, and imagine like if I had just simply closed it down. So I think you're absolutely right. It's about, what goes on inside of that community and giving people a reason to join. And I also like a challenge or a training. Again, I'm using challenge, but it could be something like that. It can be training. I've heard people use a lot of terms. The reason I like that is because it also gives you the content in real time. So you're not sitting back like waiting to create all this content for people to be in there. Because I know it's like when you throw a party, you're like, okay, what are we going to do at the party? Like, I want to make sure people are occupied. I don't want them just walking in. It's like, I used to have a friend who would show up to my party 15, not even, probably a half hour early every single time. And I was always like in the midst of like preparing stuff and getting stuff ready, and it stressed me out. It's kind of like that, right? You want to know, I know what's happening when people join my group. And that gives you something to use. And by the way, a challenge is evergreen. It can live on. So you can continue adding people to your community, to your group. and sharing the challenge with them. It's something that can work for you over and over again. So I think that's just really why I like it. And that's why I think it's a very effective tool for people who haven't created a group before, or maybe created a group, but they don't have the right people in. So that's
awesome. Or it's a good way to revive a group too. Like
revive it. Oh yeah.
But you haven't been using it in a while. That's a great way to revive it.
Lots
okay. So
engagement.
I cut you off. Yeah. I cut you off before you were moving on to number 3. I apologize. So go ahead and go to number 3.
Sure. No problem. So number 3 is just promoting it, right? If you know that you've got, so if you create, again, I'm going to stick with the party analogy. If you create an invite, are you going to keep that invite there? Or are you going to send it out? Right? Like you can create beautiful invites for your party, but if you don't send them out, nobody's going to come. Just because you build a group or build a community doesn't mean that people are going to start showing up. Like, sorry, not sorry, right? You've got to get out there and promote it. And so for people, you use the example, well, if someone has an Instagram account and they're thinking about starting a group, well, guess what? All of those Instagram followers, promote your group, get them into your group. That's another touch point for you, by the way, because now they've been, following you on Instagram, consuming your content. Now you just added another touch point. How much faster are you going to warm them up for them to become a client? So utilizing the places where you are already showing up and talking about your community. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Like, I think it's a perfect opportunity, even in other Facebook groups. And there's a way that you can do this to not break promo rules. It's something I teach my clients. But being able to talk about like, hey, I've got this resource. Hey, this is where I talk about this topic, right? If you know someone's struggling with the topic that you are an expert in, being able to point them to your group as a resource feels so much more genuine and authentic than trying to like push your program or offer your service when you don't even really know the person well enough, right? And they don't know you well enough. Like there's got to be that two-way journey that you were talking about versus just kind of speaking at people in the hopes that they'll become clients. And I think just promoting your group in general and promoting what goes on inside of it is the key to doing that.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you've been listening to the Girl Means Business podcast for any amount of time, then you know my love of email marketing runs deep. Not only is it a great way to generate new leads, but it's one of the most effective methods for nurturing warm leads and turning them into sales. Now, over the years, I've tested several email platforms, and my favorite by far is Flowdesk. Not only do they make email marketing simple and easy, even for the technically challenged, but they have everything you need to create stunning emails, capture leads, make sales, and automate the entire process, giving you time back in your busy day. And the cherry on top is you're only charged one flat fee no matter how many subscribers you have. So while other platforms will increase your price when you go over your pricing tier limit, Flowdesk has no price increases or hidden fees. If you're ready to give Flowdesk a try, click the link below in the show notes to save 50% off your first year. Let Flowdesk help you design emails people will love. Click the link below and check it out. I have a feeling you're going to love it just as much as I do. Yeah, I mean, I think, you're 100% right. Because I think just in general, a lot of, like you said, like people throw a party and they don't invite people. It's the same thing. Like you have to remind people that like, hey, it's here, come join it. If you just say it one time, then you're just kind of like, hey, come join my group. When really you should be like, over and over. Like you said, those touch points, they need those touch points.
Yeah.
Like, don't just say it one time. But I do think too, like you said, you're offering them a reason to be there. It's not just like, hey, come because I want you to come. Like, come join this group because you're going to receive X, Y, or Z, or you're going to be part of X, Y, or Z. You have to give them the information so that they know why they need to be there and if it's a good fit for them.
And I love that you just said, like, you've got to promote it more than once. You've got to talk about it more than once. Think of it this way. If someone doesn't come to the party that you invited them to, the next time you throw a party, are you never going to invite them again because they didn't show up to your first one? No. Like, you're going to keep inviting them, right?
Yeah.
Same thing here. Like, even if someone doesn't attend, or doesn't join your Facebook group the first time or attend your challenge or participate, doesn't mean you can't invite them again. Like, people need those constant reminders. And it's not like you're going to be in their DMs, hey, have you joined my group yet? Hey, have you joined my group yet? But like keeping in touch with those people and going back to the same groups and going back to the same places where you promote it and doing it over and over again. A lot of people will do it once and then be like, well, nobody joined, or 5 people joined, so people must not want it. Like, we jump to such an extreme way of thinking. And this goes for marketing in general, right? This isn't even just a principle for building a community.
Yeah. I know. Well, I mean, I think about like my own like shopping habits, I guess, if you want to call it shopping habits, or like how I use social media. And I think about like the fact that, for example, this workshop I just attended, like I've known about it for 2 years. I've seen her post about it for 2 years. And I either wasn't ready, financially couldn't afford it, didn't have the time, it didn't line up, whatever the reason was. It took me almost 2 years to click the sign up now button. But that doesn't mean that she should have stopped telling me about it. Like I think if you think about it in terms of how you access things online, we get so focused on like, oh, I don't want to bug people. I don't want to be annoying to people. I don't want to seem pushy. But when you think about it on the flip side is like how, like when somebody, comes across your Instagram or Facebook feed and they're like, hey, I have this really great resource for you. Does that feel pushy? No, it feels like they're offering you something. But for whatever reason, when we're on the other side of it, we get nervous and scared that we're going to be seen as being obnoxious.
We get in
or
our feelings. Yeah, we get in our feelings.
Yeah. So put yourself in the position of like the client. Like those are not things that, feel annoying or pushy or salesy to me when I see them. So I need to remind myself, and anyone listening that's like afraid to keep pushing themselves out there, like just keep putting it out there every chance you get.
You can't annoy the right people. I truly believe that you cannot annoy the right people.
I agree.
If you are operating from a place of being authentic and genuine.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's say we've started this group and we've got people coming in, whether it's because we did a challenge or a training or whatever the reason is. What do we do now once we have them in the group?
Yeah, so this is a huge missed opportunity. A lot of people focus on numbers and just growing, right? Just growing your group. And I think having a sense of gratitude about the people who have chosen to be in there is really key in building that relationship, because the relationship doesn't stop once they get in your group. Like they don't just become a number, right? And on your, or a step onto the next milestone, right? That's the beginning of your relationship with them. And so welcoming them, like having a system in place for how you build that relationship, starting with welcoming, is really important. Again, going back to the party, if someone comes to your party who maybe you don't know very well, or they're a friend of a friend or something, are you just going to like leave the door open and hope that they wander in and find their way to the bathroom and where the drinks and the food are? No, you would welcome them, right? You'd introduce them to other people. You'd show them where all those places are, because you want their experience to be incredible. And that's what you've got to have in place for any community, right? Especially a Facebook group, because you want people coming back to the group. Just because they join doesn't mean they're going to keep coming back, right? And one of the things that I've done really well that has not just allowed me to grow, but has allowed people to keep coming back, is having that system for nurturing the relationship, for welcoming them, for checking in on them, for tagging them in things that I think would be interesting for them, asking them like, what do you need, right? It's such a simple question, but we forget about that because we're so focused on ourselves. And that's a normal thing, right? That's just kind of being a human. But I think it's important to look at like, how would I want to be welcomed, right? The Facebook groups that I'm part of, why do I keep coming back? How would I want to be welcomed at a party? Like, what would be those steps that I would take? Maybe it's 5 to 7 steps. Welcome them. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them what they need, right? Sending them to a resource, something inside of your group. Maybe it's to that challenge. Maybe it's introducing them to somebody. Like, think about what's going to keep them coming back. And a lot of people will also do a really good job welcoming. Then they forget to check in with people after they've been in the group for any period of time. And when your group gets bigger, this becomes harder to do. So those of you who have smaller groups or are just starting, you're actually in a really unique position to be able to do this well before it becomes, more difficult. Check in with people, see how business is going. If you don't target business owners, but you target consumers, how's life going, right? Like, just check in with people and be a real human. And again, it sounds so simple, but very few people are doing this because we're focused on what we want. We're focused on the fact that we want clients, we want engagement, me. And we have to turn, and listen, I'm speaking to myself just as much as your listeners, like we have to shift the perspective and turn the page, right, to the person who's joined and what they need and what they want.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, exactly, the perspective, because I think too, like when you mentioned reach out to people, connect with them, like check in on with them, think about how rewarding it feels when you post, whether it's in a group or maybe you have responded to somebody's, story on Instagram or Facebook that you really admire, when they message you back or when they comment on your post and you're like, oh my gosh, they actually took the time to read what I wrote or what I said and respond back. Like, even if it's something as simple as like, thanks so much, I really appreciate you letting me know this. Or, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Like, I posted in a group the other day with a couple of people in there that I really admire. And I posted something I was excited about in my business. And just the fact that these people read it and took the time to respond to it and say like, that's amazing. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. Like, it made my day, you know, like it's such simple little things that can help make people feel so much more connected to you. And like, they mean something to you and your group.
Love it. So true. People want to feel connected. People want to feel like they matter. They don't want to just be a number.
Exactly. Hey friends, if you have been a longtime listener of the Girl Means Business podcast, then you know how much I love email marketing. And if you're new to the show, well, there it is. I am a huge proponent of email marketing in your business. Not only is it a really great way to get in touch with your audience and build connections, but is a guaranteed way to get in front of your ideal client. While social media is fun and shiny and exciting, sometimes it can feel like you're just shouting into a crowd, hoping someone notices you. But with email marketing, you land inside the inbox of everyone on your email list. That's pretty amazing, guys. Now, one of the biggest objections I hear to email marketing is, I don't know what to say. I don't have anything to send out in my emails. Well, guess what, friend? I am here to help you with that. I have created Inbox Insider just for you. So what is Inbox Insider? Well, it's your new email marketing BFF. You are going to get an entire year of email marketing content ready to go. An entire year. That's 52 email marketing templates, one per week for an entire year. Now, these are not just your general ideas of, hey, you can talk about this. These are done for you, copy and paste templates. All you have to do is fill in the blanks with your specific brand content, but the rest of the framework is there for you, ready to go. Now, not only are you going to get these amazing 52 templates, but you're also going to get welcome sequence templates, sales sequences, list cleaning sequences, a subject line generator, and because you know I love rewarding my listeners with great things, I've included 3 amazing bonuses for you. You are going to get a lead magnet library with lead magnet ideas for tons of different industries. You're going to get the list of 100 power words. These are power words that are going to be used in your social media content, your email content, your website to help you get noticed and stand out. And my favorite bonus of all is a step-by-step guide on how to use quizzes to grow your email list. Guys, I love a good lead magnet, and a quiz is one of the best lead magnets out there. And I am breaking down step by step exactly how to do it. So not only will you learn how to build your email list using quizzes and the lead magnet library, but you're going to have all of the exact templates you need to send out really great relationship building emails over the course of the next year. And the best part, you get all of this for just $47. So head to girlmeansbusiness.com/inbox to grab your copy today and start building your email list. All right, guys, back to the show. Okay, so we've built the group. We are, creating connections. We've got people, in the group that they're connecting with each other. We're connecting with our audience or with our community. So the next thing you mentioned like pre-selling. So let's talk a little bit about like how you use, because it's more than just a community where people can hang out. Obviously, you want to use this to help grow your business, bring in more revenue. So how are you using it to make money?
Yeah, if you're using your group to talk about business, it should make you money. And I think starting with recognizing that that's a normal, necessary part and not something you should feel guilty about is really important. A lot of people feel guilty about, talking about their offers and things because they've provided so much free content. But remember, people have chosen to be there. So one of the best ways to pre-sell is first getting your own thoughts down about why it's so important that people buy from you, like being really 100% sold on yourself first. I think that's, key number one. Key number two is you're pre-selling people from the minute they join, whether you realize it or not. Like their interactions with you, like you are your brand. For most of us, like we're our brand, right? And so their interactions with you are really, really critical here. And that's why asking the question early on, like, what are you struggling with? So one of the first things I always ask is, what's your number one marketing struggle? Because I want to know, not only so I can point them in the right direction of trainings and things that will help them, but also so that I can track that before I launch something, right? So that I can send them to training so that I can start kind of addressing that hurdle with them before they even get on a sales call, so that they're primed and ready to go when I make offers. So tagging them in things that I think would be helpful, circling back, right? Like sharing tips with them. That's some of the nurture stuff that I was talking about before that is so important for pre-selling. Your content is a big way that you do this, right? So when you're choosing a challenge or you're going live about anything, like thinking about what do people need to hear in order to buy, even if you're not promoting something actively. That's a really good question to ask, because then you're going to come from a place of addressing some of their concerns, some of their objections, things like that, before you even market your offer, before you even get on a call with them. So people who have been in my community, I mean, just to use an example, we relaunched my group program, the Dream Client Accelerator, last week. And someone joined who had been in my world, my Facebook group for a little while, showed up to the call, immediately bought and paid because she had been seeing my content, because she had been hearing me talk about the importance of building a community. This is a program that helps you build a community. Before, she had heard me talk about building a community before I even talked about my program. A lot of people lead in first with whatever their offer is. They forget about, well, what are the things that people need to hear before they make a decision about buying the offer? That's got to be in your content. It's got to also be tailored to what they're saying they're struggling with, right? So keeping that in mind, that yes, you can put out great content, but it's also about following back up with the person. Hey, how are you doing? I know you were struggling with X, Y, and Z. How is that going, right? And being able to support them around it so that when you do introduce an offer or a service or a program, whatever it is, that person's like, wow, I just got such an incredible experience. They've tagged me in things that have been helpful and helped shift my perspective. I'm ready to buy. I mean, that's an abbreviated version, Kendra, of what this looks like. But I think it's so important for people to even just that simple question of what are you struggling with can serve you in so many different ways throughout your interaction with that one person.
Well, because I'm a big believer in the fact that you have to be completely clear on what your client's pain points are before you can ever try to sell them something. Because if I'm trying to sell, ice to an Eskimo, clearly they're not going to need it. So you have to know what are their pain points. But I also want to say something too, you mentioned, the idea that within your group, you're not just selling to them all the time. You're going to be sharing value. You're going to be, following up with them, things like that. And I think one of the things that I have seen in some of the groups that I'm in, and I did this when I had a group for my boudoir photography, was you also are building that social proof. People are going in who have worked with you or who have purchased from you or whatever. And you now have this gold mine of people who are going to be able to share authentically their testimonies, whether that is, commenting on somebody else's thing, oh, I took her course, it was amazing, or asking them to go in and share, their own review within the group. You have this great spot now where people can basically sell for you through that social proof.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey photographers, are you ready to make 2024 your best year yet? Growing a business is tough. You're following all the successful photographers and experts, soaking up their best advice and downloading all their free guides, trying to replicate their success only to come up lacking, blaming yourself when their methods don't work for you. But the truth is, it isn't you. Free content and one-size-fits-all courses can only get you so far. What you need is personalized help and guidance, but that can get expensive. Well, not anymore. I've created the perfect solution to get you personalized results for less than $2 a day. Introducing the Focus Photographer Lab, a one-of-a-kind coaching membership that gets you one-on-one results for a fraction of the cost of traditional coaching. Inside the lab, you'll find the 3 C's to success: classes, coaching, and community. With classes, you gain access to a treasure trove of pre-recorded trainings and invaluable resources. With coaching, you get monthly live trainings and Q&A sessions, along with my favorite part, the weekly one-on-one office hours, where we get to address your unique questions and challenges. And then there's the community, where you get to connect with an amazing group of talented female photographers who share your passion, supporting each other and inspiring each other to greatness. The best part is it doesn't come with an expensive one-on-one coaching price tag. You get all of that for just $47 a month. You can even try it for free for 14 days to make sure it's a good fit for you. And there is no contract and no obligation. You can cancel at any time. So what are you waiting for? Head down to the show notes and click the link to learn more and get signed up today. And let's make 2024 our best year yet.
Amazing. It's so true. And, we will bring in clients for monthly client tell-alls. Like, we do that kind of stuff all the time in the group, because even if we're not in the middle of a launch, it doesn't mean we can't start, sharing that stuff, because in the client testimonials and tell-alls, the clients themselves are more often than not helping the potential client overcome objections right then and there by talking about where they were at. So I think that's super, super important and something that everybody needs to be utilizing. Also, when you think about, like, going back to my original point about referrals versus community, when you think about, and I have a graphic that my marketing assistant created that visualizes this perfectly, because I like to take like the words in my head and have her, put them out on visual. But when you go to referrals, right? Like, you are going from one person to one person to one person. So you got to go to your referral partner. Then you got to wait for them to go to somebody who they think might be a good fit, send that person back to you. Then you got to talk to them. When you are posting in your community, you could be reaching 50, 100, more, a bunch of people at once, right? And when you're overcoming objections, or you're talking about the importance of, why you do what you do, you're nurturing all of those people at once. That's what helps you sell faster too. Yeah. And I think it's just a really important distinction to make. Again, nothing against referrals. They're an important part of business. They don't have to be the only part.
No, and I agree. I think it's, you have to be diverse in how you market your business. And there's a time for, those one-on-one referrals. There's a time for, mass marketing on social media that's, like trying to like speak to your colder audience. And then you have these communities, whether it's on Facebook or in an email list, or now, like, I know text messaging is a big thing. People do that as well. But it's just, again, like fostering the relationship even more. It's like you're just slowly kind of going through, like any dating relationship, you have to have a way to meet them, and then you start going on one-on-ones, and you start having like more personal time, and you get to know that person more. And the groups are such a great way to foster that community and to build trust. I've talked a lot about the know, like, and trust factor. And this is where the trust piece comes in, because they're going to get to know you and your business and what you can do on such a deeper level. So I love it.
I'm so glad you said what you just said, because I have heard people, I'm not sure if you've heard this too, say that the know, like, and trust factor is dead.
No.
It's not dead, people. It's not dead. Far from it. It's changed in how you do it, right? Like, consumer preference has changed. Their behavior has changed. People need to digest more stuff before they buy. Like, that is just a proven fact, right? And so that's even more evidence as to why you need a community. And no relationship can exist without trust.
Exactly.
Like, tell me a relationship that can exist without trust, and I'll probably call BS on that, right? Like, there needs to be some form of trust there. And you've got to build that trust before they become a client, not when they become a client.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I know we could go on forever about talking about this, because we're both like geek out over marketing stuff, but is there anything else you feel like that we need to know or share about, like, building a Facebook community before we wrap up?
Just that it doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. That's normal. Yeah. I think it's easy to look at other people who have communities and say, like, oh, look at how many people they've got in their community, but you're not looking at what happened before then and leading up to that point. And so the sooner you start, the better. And I will also say, like, there's no, like, all hope is lost situation when it comes to building a community. Like, if you've got a community and you don't have the right people in it, or you didn't have a strategy and you feel like it's not working, like, you can always revitalize that using some of the stuff that I shared today. And I think that's really important, that it's never too, like, early to start. And it's also never too late to revitalize what you already have. And then the third thing I would say, and I think this goes for just marketing in general, be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for the 5 people you have in your community, because those are 5 potential clients. Those are 5 people that chose to be there when they didn't have to. And that if 5 people chose to be there when they didn't have to, what's stopping 100?
Exactly.
Right? Like that's the building block for how you get there. And so I just want to share that, because I think we have a tendency to get so caught up in numbers. And I'm not saying numbers don't have their place in marketing. They certainly do. But I think we get too caught up in like, oh, I have to hit this certain, number in my group, or I have to get there and I have to do it because somebody else did it, or looking at other people's communities and feeling envious. Like, feel gracious for what you have. I know that's a hard thing sometimes. And believe me, I have to do it too. But I hope that takes some of the burden and the pressure off of people when they're thinking about building a community.
It's so true. Because it feels discouraging at times, but it's really not. It's just, I heard this saying one time and the visual of it stuck with me. And it was the idea that if you think about like trying to push something forward, like you're pushing something that's really, really heavy and you're trying to either push it forward or push it uphill. If you're constantly pushing and leaning into it, at some point you're going to fall flat on your face. But every once in a while you have to kind of sit back and regain your strength and rest and just enjoy how far you've come in pushing this thing. And so I think about that with my business a lot. I'm like, okay, if I'm constantly trying to grow, push forward, go forward. And I never take the time to sit back and really nurture what I already have, enjoy what I already have, appreciate the journey that got me to this point, then I'm eventually going to fall flat on my face. I'm either going to burn out, I'm going to be exhausted, I'm not going to enjoy it anymore. And so I think that is the same thing with like the numbers aspect, is if you're constantly focused on how can I get more people in my group? How can I get more people to follow me on social media or on my email list? And you're not taking the time to really appreciate and value the people that are already there, then eventually those people are going to leave because they're going to be like, well, I don't serve her any purpose anymore because I'm not new. Does that, like, I just think that visual of that idea of pushing
I see
forward,
the visual too.
It made so much sense.
Yeah, I see the visual too. It really truly does. You're absolutely spot on. I mean, a coach said this to me one time, so I can't take credit for it, but it was super powerful. Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. Oh
yeah. I love that. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Well,
put that on the
exactly. Well, Michelle, thank you so much. You gave us so much wisdom and insights and such great tips here, things that people can walk away today and feel like they can go and put into action. So I really appreciate that so much. And for the time you've taken to chat with us, let everybody know how they can find you, how they can learn more about what you do and what you offer.
Yeah. Thank you, Kendra, for having me. It's been awesome. I would love to see you guys inside of my own community, my Facebook group, Market Like a Boss. If you search for Market Like a Boss in Facebook, you'll find it. I'm sure Kendra will link to it in the show notes. That's where I show up the most and provide some great content around growing your own community, attracting clients that you love working with. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I also have a free guide called Your First 100. So if you were looking to put some of these tips into action, would love to have you download that guide. Even if you've already started building a community, it's all about getting your first or next 100 dream clients into your group. And then when you download it, you also get 7 daily tips for how to boost engagement, nice. Right? So after you grow, how do you keep people engaged? I've got some awesome suggestions for how to do that. So you'll get access to all of that when you download the guide. It's kind of like your cheat sheet and shortcut for how to do it.
Thank you. That's awesome. I'm going to go down that actually, because that sounds really good. Well, Michelle, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to keep in touch, and we'll chat more in the future. Have a good day.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you again to Michelle for being part of the Girl Means Business podcast, for sharing all of her wonderful tips on creating community using Facebook groups. Make sure you go follow her on social media, download the Your First 100 free guide so you can start building your Facebook community today. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our show this week. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.